Okay, this is a third pass for the practice draft for the sermon for the first Torah portion of the second book of the Chumash, Sh'mot of Sh'mot. This is good. I'm down to 754 words. I keep clipping stuff out. Surely this must be 5.5 minutes now. But I say that and I don't know. I don't know. I guess we're going to find out if it's 5.5 minutes. I like it less every time I read it. I think I don't know how to say poop in Yiddish. Full of nonsense. Got to figure out how to say full of nonsense in Yiddish. I actually think, as I think about this is less mindfulness and more about alertness, which is the opposite in a way of mindfulness. But in another way, I think the creative state is better than the alert state. So whatever, you'll have to decide yourself. We're going to get started. I don't know if you've heard, but in psychology and self-help circles, mindfulness is a big buzzword these days. We're told we need to be in the moment by doctors for high blood pressure, by psychologists for lower anxiety. You slow down, you breathe, you turn off your emergency alert system, and you use your noticing system. You observe what's happening, and you observe how you're feeling and what you're thinking about those feelings. And mindfulness is fantastic. It can calm. It can clarify thoughts. It can make you feel better. But I'm going to argue that mindfulness can also be like half a handshake. It's unfinished. Mindfulness gets us in a ready and receptive state, but then what? Let's do what the Jews like to do. Let's ask the Torah. In this week's Torah portion, Sh'mot, in the book of Sh'mot, we meet the Moses of our 5 books of Moses. Born of Hebrew slaves, Moses' loving relatives sneak him in a basket, little baby Moses, into the hands of a great Pharaoh's own daughter to protect him from her father's evil decrees to kill all the male Hebrew babies. Moses grows up a prince of Egypt. There's an animated movie about it. And then one day, in his first great moment of mindfulness, of paying attention, Moses sees an Egyptian slave master beating a Hebrew slave and kills the slave master. Shortly after that, he hears the slaves mention the crime and thinks, uh-oh, I'm going to get in trouble. So he flees his princely life to live among the shepherds in another land, and his story ends. No, it doesn't. It is right here that we join Moses for his next great moment of mindfulness. Here is quoted gifted scholar Robert Alter's translation of Sh'mot chapter 3, verses 1 to 4. And Moses was herding the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, priest of Midian, and he drove the flock into the wilderness and came to the mountain of God, to Horeb. And the Lord's messenger appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of the bush. And he saw, and look, vehine, the bush was burning with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses thought, let me pray, turn aside that I may see this great sight, why the bush does not burn up. And the Lord saw that he had turned aside to see, and God called to him from the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, here I am, hineni. Moses answers, hineni, hine ani, here I am, hine ani, hineni, behold, I am. Our commentary in the Chumash, Etz Chaim, calls Moses' response a, quote, spontaneous, unhesitating response to a divine call. God calls, Moses immediately answers. For Moses, it's a literal voice calling his name to issue commands. For us, probably not. A still small voice gently whispering, an annoying urging without words, a pushing, a great sadness or a wash of ecstasy, a great yearning, a desire, or a habit that itches us to do the right thing, one we've trained for. I repurposed these words for this calling from Rabbi Arthur Green from his version of the Torah Commentary from the great Rabbi Yehudah Leib Alter. The pounding of my own heart, the sound of Torah, the voice of my beloved, help me to learn again that they are all one voice, one calling. Just being mindful is not enough in this world and for us. It is half the circuit, paying attention. But there's a spark in us, our creativity in God, waiting to complete the circuit and light us up like the burning bush, like Moses. All the Jewish religious texts and all the Jewish law studying what happened, why did it happen, and how can we do better, all of it is completely useless if in the here and now, the right now, you and I do not answer the call. God is calling. I cannot say what God is calling you to do, but will you and I answer? In this coming week, what if we were mindful of the moments we find ourselves in and then watched and listened for the calling? Watched for the urging that wells up in us to strike up a conversation with someone who looks like they need one, to start reading a book that calls us, to offer what money we can to the person embarrassed to ask for it. I don't know how mindfulness will leave you open to God's call, but you and I can talk about it next week. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will, Erev Tov. So that was on time. Snip, snip, cut, cut, chop, chop.